Very
Oh, I
good,
forgot.
David. Thank you. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you.
Good save there.
Okay, yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, Zog the Gemara. Amar, four lines up from the bottom on Lamed Vav Amid base. Amar Rabbi Shmuel, but Medvar B'Sada Halavan. We're talking about a Sada Halavan, right? We said so when Rabbi Shmuel said that you could, depending on what the chazak is, that's talking about a field that has grain, right? A grain field, right? But if it's a star, what do you call it? Sada Elon, then you could have potentially, according to Rabbi Shmuel, three different harvests from one land in one time, in 1 year, and then you could have a chazaka that way. Again, Rabbi Shmuel's chiddush is that you don't need 3 years for a chazaka. Uh, yeah, fine. So, Amar Abaye, with Rabbi Shmuel, Nishmal the Rabbanon. From Rabbi Shmuel's din, we could learn out a din for the Rabbanon, right? Meaning the Chachamim chaylik on Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel holds you could have in 1 year you could have a chazaka. According to the Rabbanan, you cannot. You need a full 3 years, like we saw yesterday, right in this Gemara above this. So you So let's say a guy had a tree, a land that had 30 trees, mimata asara lebeisa, and he planted 10, 10 trees for every beisa. Beisa is 50 amas by 50 amas. All right, so he planted 10. So ochal asara b'shana he used 10. He harvested 10. Again, ochal doesn't mean to eat. It means that he used 10 trees in this year. Asara b'shana and 10, meaning again, there were 30 trees in the field. This sounds like some sort of math riddle. 30 trees in a besa. He had 10 in 1 year, 10 in the second year, and 10 in the third year. That's what he harvested. Reizu chazaka, that's a chazaka. Meaning, even though he didn't harvest all the trees in the field in 1 year, but he did 10 in each year, so that's a chazaka. On to today's stuff.
Those type of trees didn't need to be harvested the other years?
Yes, I wish I understood all this harvesting business, right? Meaning, I thought trees are they perennials. Is that the right word? They grow by themselves, right?
So yeah, which means they come back every year.
Yeah. So what harvest did you do? I mean, the trees. If you didn't pick them up,
he's talking about the fruit.
I understand. So if I don't harvest the fruit, it doesn't fall off the tree by itself and finished. Or maybe I don't hazaka.
Imagine it falls off by itself. When it
so
rots,
I'm saying, so let's say I'm a lazy oaf. That's not no let's say. But I move into a guy's field and I decide, you know what, I'm just not picking the fruit. I just want to move here and I live there for 3 years, but I don't touch anything. Do I have chazaka or not?
I mean, you have chazaka on the house, no?
If someone really wants to take care of the tree, you have to pick it and you have to prune the trees to get it to grow better. If you just leave it alone, it's going to do worse than if you tended it.
Yeah, but I'm saying the whole point of chazak is that a guy's working the field, and the owner sees the guy working the field, and he doesn't make a macha. So you didn't make a macha and working the field. It must be the guy's rightfully using it, right? That's the lumdis behind the chazak. So if he's not doing any work, he's not doing any work in the field. So then why would the guy think that this squatter, right? So, but that's what the Gemara here is saying. He didn't harvest the full field every year. He did it in thirds. He did 10, 10, 10. Right? So we're saying that that's still a chazak. Right? So let's see what's going on. It Lav mi Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Didn't Rabbi Shmuel say chad peira havi chazaka lekula peri? You have one pre, which is a chazaka for all the peiros, meaning meaning you could have one type of fruit and each one is its own harvest. That memela makes it that it's as if you harvested for 3 years, right? And then also if you have 3 different types of fruit, for sure. So hachanami, so here too, right here too. Yeah, hold on a second. Just lost the place. So here too, hachanami hani have a chazaka lahani. These are chazaka for this one. Vahani have a chazaka lahani, and these 10 are chazaka for this one. So therefore, it's all considered chazaka. So basically, we're saying we can learn out from Rabbi Shmuel that this would work according to the Rabbanim. Right?
And if I don't have 3 different types of fruit trees, then
No.
then,
I think here we're talking about one type of fruit tree. No.
I thought we said 3 different types of fruit trees. No.
No, we're saying like this. No, we're saying many Rabbi Shmuel holds it could either be 3 different types of fruit tree or the same as long as it could if it had multiple harvests in a year. So then that works. Right? So we're saying, but from that, you can take some of what Rabbi Shmuel says and learn it out to the Chachamim, which is that you don't have to harvest the entire field in order to make a chazaka. You could do 10 trees in, 10 trees the second year, 10 trees in the third year. Right? Anyways, so that's what we're saying. That's how we're learning out from Rabbi Shmuel to Rabbanan. But the Gemara says, "Hani mili heichad lo yafiku." That's only.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know who's mute. We're totally wrong. A chazaka does not have to be for 3 years. That's totally false.
You're saying, you're asking.
I'm saying the Gemara said that. That 14 months, it doesn't have to be 3 years. It has to be 3 something.
According to Rabbi Shmuel.
Whatever that something is, I don't know what the something is. There's no such thing as 3-year chazaka. That's totally for amateurs.
According to Rabbi Shmuel, yes.
Okay, so he's religious, Rabbi Shmuel.
He is, but the question is, does your religion go with his religion?
Do we paskin like him?
He's the one who said it.
Yes, he said it. No, I have no idea if we paskin like him. I don't think we paskin like him. Right?
Saying we paskin 3 years.
We paskin like the Chachamim. The Tanakh is 3 years. Yeah.
No, listen. In theory, Rabbi Shmuel also paskins 3 years, but you can fast.
No.
The concept is there, but you can fast track it.
So it's not 3 years.
He paskins 3 crops.
Right.
Tanakh paskins 3 years. He paskins 3 crops. So if you get 3 crops in 1 year or 2 years or 4 years, it depends on how long it takes to get 3 crops.
Correct.
But that's only Rabbi Yishmael. That's only Rabbi Yishmael.
So we're talking about Rabbi Shmuel.
Have a good night. Have a good night. You look good.
According to Rabbi Shmuel, a biennial producing apple tree or apple orchard, which only produces fruit every 2 years, it would take 5 years to make a chazaka, according to Rabbi Shmuel.
Would it, Taka? Is that true?
Yeah.
No, if you wanted to make a chazaka by picking apples.
Right.
Maybe you wanted to make a chazaka by plowing the guy's field.
But you wouldn't call that.
I said an apple orchard.
I wasn't sure. Rabbi
He plowed the field for 3 years. It's chazaka. There's nothing to do with the apple orchard.
Not according to Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel holds it needs the crop of the field.
You could only you get a chazaka by picking fruit. Is that what you're saying? Rabbi Shmuel says he doesn't say that. I'm sorry, he doesn't say that.
Okay.
The Gemara gives 40 different ways to make a chazaka, not just.
It was all in the Tanakh. All in the Tanakh.
It doesn't have to repeat it for the other Orthodox rabbis because that's what the Mishnah said.
No, because they hold, like you pointed out, they hold different things. The Tanakh holds it takes 3 years. The number 3 is the only thing we have.
If you build a fence around the guy's field, that's not a chazaka?
That's a Kenyan chazaka, not a Raya chazaka. Different kind of chazaka.
It's a chazaka?
Not this kind of chazaka, no.
I didn't say it's this kind. It's chazaka, the word chazaka.
The word chazaka is irrelevant.
It's a chazaka, it's not a chazaka. It's a chazaka or not a chazaka?
No, it's not.
It's not? The only way is to pick fruit? That's the only way to make a chazaka? Where did you see that?
According to whom?
According to Orthodox Jewry. According to whom?
Orthodox Jewry has a large gamut, Rabban. It runs.
We
If you haven't
understand
figured that
that.
out. If you haven't figured that out yet. It's interesting you saying that, Kesher, because I wasn't sure. Meaning, does Rabbi Shmuel say it?
Yeah, we had to break that up. The other was putting down bets already. What do you do? What do you do?
I'm saying 1 second. I thought Rabbi Shmuel would say it's either 3 years or a harvest, whichever comes first. You're saying it's not like that? You're saying Rabbi Shmuel goes with harvest or bust?
It's 3 uses of the field, 3 full uses of the field. And Rabbi Kiva holds 3 half uses
instead
of
of being
field.
the most makel, instead of Rabbi Shmuel being the most makel, it becomes the most machmir.
It depends which way you look at it.
It's not a matter of kol chumrah. It's a different way of looking at chazaka.
Okay,
it takes years.
Okay, according to Rabbi Shmuel, it could be the longest time. You have a 3-year crop, and it takes you 9 years to get to make a chazak on it.
Yeah, but it could also be 90 days. Depends on the crop.
Okay, so fine. So he would still, it could come out to be the most machmir.
What happens if he builds a fence? If he builds a fence around the field, is that a chazaka? So he builds 3 fences.
That's a different type. That's a different type of chazaka.
Whatever that word is.
Not what we're talking about.
Fences. So now after 2 days, he has a chazaka.
It's not a chazaka. That's not a chazaka.
Well, it's a different. It's a
kinyan. It's not a chazaka that we're talking about. It has nothing to do with this parsha.
Well, there's a dip. You could be kinda, meaning if you buy a field, one of the forms of a kinyan is you could build a fence or dig a hole, but that's a real kinyan. That's not a chazaka.
Right, but you can't be kinda with our kind of chazaka. Our kind of chazaka is just for a raya. That kind of chazaka is just for a kinyan. They don't intermingle.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, but what we're saying is that we're going to learn out a little bit from Rabbi Shmuel to the Chachamim. Meaning, don't think that according to the Chachamim, you have to harvest the entire field for all 3 years. You don't have to. Right? You could harvest 10, 10, and 10. That's what we're trying to learn out. But the Gemara says, that's where the trees didn't give off fruit. Meaning the other 20 trees, the first year they took 10 trees. So the other 20 trees didn't give off fruit. And then the next year there's a different 10 trees. And the other 20 trees didn't give off fruit. But if they gave off fruit, and he didn't eat it, then that's not a chazaka. Right, Rabbaran, this is what you're saying. Meaning it comes out that if you just decided not to do it, then that's not considered a chazaka. Meaning because the owner says, "Oh, this guy's not moving in. He just, he's hungry, so he took 10 trees, right? The other ones he left, so he's not really moving in." And then another one is who the ba'azi ba'zuzi, and that's also if the trees are spread out around the whole field, right? But if they're all in one part of the field, right, and he's going around in different fields, then it doesn't work. Very good. Hold on, let me take a picture.
In the case that it doesn't work, do we make it as if we split it into 3 fields, and he has a chazaka on the first one, but not the other 2, or he has no chazaka at all?
I think it's going to come up later.
I thought it was here, but it's not. Yeah.
I think it's going to come up later. Fine. Okay, so that's the first thing that we learned from this Gemara. Next, so this now we get into people. We're doing a little bit of hakdama, meaning when you sell land, are you including the trees or you're not including the trees? So normally when you sell land, so you're including the trees, and when you sell trees, you're including the ground, right? Now for this, and we're going to get into actually a Mishnah and Klayim tonight, because hopefully we get to it tonight. So it depends on how do you call a field, right? Sometimes if you only sell one tree, then you're not really selling the karka because you just sold them a tree. If you sell 3 trees, then that's already considered like a field. Right? The question is what happens if it's somewhere down the middle and we don't know? So here, he sold the trees to one person and the field to another person. Right? He's trying to squeeze this. He's trying to squeeze all the money he can out of this real estate deal. So one of them is holding on to the trees, meaning he made a chazaka on the trees, and one of them made a chazaka on the karka. One guy gets the trees and one guy gets the karka. Right? Meaning he owns a tree with no dirt, ground, with no, I don't know what you call it, ground, with no ground whatsoever. Right? But
didn't you say you have to sell ground under it, the 16 amas?
I mean, he gets the roots, right?
Yeah.
He gets the roots, and also the Rashbam says he cannot, the owner of the land can't kick out the guy with the tree and say, hey, you only own the tree, so get it out of here. No, it's
unless it dries out.
Correct. Once it dries out or dies, then the guy has to get rid of his tree, and then that's it. Yeah, so karka. So that's the Shitas Reb Zvid, is that one gets you can own a tree without the karka. That means that the guy who bought the trees has nothing. So then let the Bal Karka pick up your tree and get out of here. Right? Meaning not, you can't, like we just said, he can't tell him to do this when the tree's alive. When the tree's dead, he could say, okay, now get out of here. Okay, yeah, that's exactly what Reb Zvid holds. That's exactly what he could do. Right?
If the tree is dead, it's only good for firewood. That's what he's gonna do. Tell him, get your firewood out of here. He's gonna say, you know what? Keep the tree. You know, I don't need you.
So Taisus is masber that Taisus, he's saying like he should still at least own the right to plant a new tree there. Meaning he bought a tree. He didn't buy firewood. If he wanted to buy firewood, he could have bought firewood. He bought a tree planted in the ground. If this tree dies, he has the right to plant another tree there. That's Rav Papa's issue with Reb Zvid, according to Taisus. Right? I mean, you can hear both sides.
Even though it's yonik from the karka that he didn't buy. So when he's buying a tree that's alive, then he's buying it with also the right to be yonik from, because he's gonna, if it dies, he's able to put a new tree over there. So the new tree is also going to be yonik from the karka. So when he's buying the tree, he's buying the right to be yonik from the karka.
True. Yes. Correct. That's the machlokes. Whether is that the reason why the guy's buying it or not? Yeah. Salom Rav Papa. So Rav Papa said, "Zekana ilonos v'chatzi karka." Because Rav Papa disagrees with Rav Zvid. Now this is going to come up on my base. So Rav Papa says he's kind of the tree and half the karka. Zekana chatzi karka. The other guy is kind of half the karka. I mean, not the whole karka, not the whole land in the field, just the land. Means under the ground that's under the tree, they split it. Right? Right, and it means even two trees. Right? So basically, just to chazer over here to try and get this a little clear, although it's confusing. Reb Zvid holds that even if he bought 3 trees, which means he bought we said 3 is considered like a field of trees, he does not get the land. Right? So then if he dies, he can't put anything in there. Rav Papa holds that even if it's only 2 trees, which is for sure not a field, still they split the dirt. Now what happens? Go the ground. So what happens when the tree dies and he wants to put it in? Does he still only owns half the ground. I wasn't sure about this. Rav Papa is saying that they split the ground. So now the tree dies, and now the owner of the tree wants to plant a new tree. So can he only plant in half the place because he only owns half the ground? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, I mean, the other guy has to have a right to actually use half the karka.
Is that how it goes?
He owns half of it. You can't say he owns half of it but doesn't have a right to use it because the Bali Lamas can use anything.
I don't know why we have to say that it's half and half. The fact is, they both have a tefisa on the karka that if he takes his tree and he leaves and he doesn't go back, so then then the guy who owns the karka has all the karka. But the fact is that since he has a right to have the tree be yonik at that spot, so he has something. I don't know if we can quantify it as half and half, but we
It
said
says
they
half
both
and half.
have a. Yeah, I know, but half and half. Not like I wouldn't say that's like 50%, 50%. It's just that they both have an equal tefisa on that property on that plot.
Fair enough. Okay, fair enough.
I was,
Yeah, but
I
I'm
was,
just
I
not sure how
was talking
technically it
about
works.
Says
I
the
was talking
Rashbam
about
says half doesn't
plots
mean
with
half.
my mother. Just today.
The
Half a
Rashbam
plot.
the Rashbam says half doesn't mean half.
Oh,
He does,
well,
does say that? Where he said? I don't remember. Where does he say it?
Oh, yeah.
I
It
mean,
means what he needs,
I mean,
what's
it's in the
necessary
footnotes,
for
so
the
I don't
tree.
know. It's in the footnote quoting the Rashbam.
The big Rashbam. He
Well,
says
all the
that
Rashbams
half.
are big.
Yeah,
I say all
it
the.
doesn't mean literally half in commas. It means how much he needs for the trees to work properly.
What do you need? I'm in sheer. I have a car. Okay, eventually, yeah. Okay, okay. So you're saying okay, but you still have to come up with a deal with the guy that owns the car.
It's still
Oh,
a
it's late.
physical ownership in the karka. It's not just to be yonik, for the trees to be yonik. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. So now the Gemara says Pshita. Now we continue sort of on this thing. Machar karka v'shari lonas l'fanav. Let's say a guy sold the karka, but he left out some trees, right? Meaning he didn't sell the trees, or he didn't mention in the star that he's selling the trees. Yesh loy karka. So then he gets the karka around the trees because the assumption is that he didn't sell the trees. When he didn't sell the trees, he gets some karka that's around the trees. Rabbi Kiva, so we have a machlokes with Rabbi Kiva, and I think it's a Tanakama, right? Who holds that a meicher is generous. He has an eye in yafa. He has a nice eye. So Mamela, if he has a nice eye, so that doesn't mean he has nice eyes. It means that he's generous. So he sold everything. So according to Bakiva, so we're not sure here. The guy he sold the karka, but he didn't write anything about the trees. So the shadows, did he include the trees or not? So we're saying that even Rabbi Kiva, who says that normally we assume he sold everything, here he's not going to say that. Because Hani Milagabi bar v'dus. When does Rabbi Kiva say that that's by a bar and a dus? Those are holes in the ground. The loy mikshu ba'ara. It does not mess with the ground. Meaning, Rabbi Kiva holds that if somebody sold the land and there's a bar in the land, right? And he wants to keep the bar, because not necessarily if you have a bar in the land, when you sell the land, are you selling the bar? So therefore he wants to keep the bar. So Memela, he needs access to the bar. If he sold the whole land but not the bar, how's he getting there? So that's a kshayla. So Rabbi Kiva says, I don't know how he's going to get. He's going to have to ask permission, but it doesn't mean that in his das he left a path to get from the street to his bar. No, the land, it's ayin yafa. He's giving the entire land away, even though he's keeping the bar. But he's saying but the Gemara is saying now, Rabbi Kiva says that only by a bar. Aval ilana is but by trees on the base. The mechashi ba'ara. So trees are machish. They weaken the ground, right? Because it weakens the ground for two reasons. Rashbam, right, says that it's the plow won't be able to go, and it takes nutrients in the ground. So shiure shire. So Rabbi Kiva's what?
What about I said it. What about ayin yafa for himself? You can't have ayin yafa for both sides on something. So why you?
Yeah, that's true.
There's things that
But I
are
think
normal, and there's things that ain't yofa. Normal is to have a path to walk to the bar. You don't have to be a big tzaddik to give everything to the other guy and become Rav Steinman, and then you sit
right.
home and you can't use your own stuff. Like what?
He's still on with this Reb Steinman with making peace.
Yeah. No, I don't think it means ayin yofa that he's looking to be a nice guy to the buyer. I think it's based on his das. What does a person mean to sell when he's selling things?
That's I understand that, but from the Gemara, it's obvious you can sell different things. If a guy can sell a tree to one guy and a land to the other guy, so obviously you can make all kinds of different deals.
True, right? But I'd say we're trying to figure, because this guy was not very clear in his shtar. So man, we have no idea what his kavanah is. So we're trying to say, Akiva says that everything is everything is he's generous. He really meant to sell it, right? Anyways, so we're saying Shiuri Shire must be he left over some land for himself. The Eloi Shire, lay malay, because if he didn't leave it over, then the guy will tell him, the guy that bought it, Akari Lona Bazil, the trees that you didn't sell to me, just pick them up and get out of here with them. Right? Yeah, so that's that. So Mochar Ilonos, but let's say this, so that's if he sold the land and he left out trees. What happens if he sold trees, B'shayir Karka, the fun of, but he left the Karka. But he didn't say, the Rashbam says, he said it beferish. I'm selling you the trees, but I'm keeping the land. Look to the Rebbe Kiva Rabbanan, that's a machlokes Rebbe Kiva and the Rabbanan. Right? Rebbe Kiva Damar Meicher Be'ayin Yafa Meicher, according to Rebbe Kiva, who says that you sell Ayin Yafa Islay L'Rabbanan. I'm sorry, Islay. He holds that you get to keep he gets to keep the trees, right? And he can replant the Rabbanon, but according to Rabbanon, that a person does not sell, meaning he's cheap and he only gives the minimum. So Leslie, then the buyer doesn't get it, right? Because he's not, and he can't plant. It doesn't go to the buyer, right? Right? I don't know if I explained that correctly. Meaning, he sold the trees and he left the karka in front of the trees. So according to Rebbe Kiva, who says he's generous, so then the buyer can replant trees there, right? Because the trees include karka. According to the Rabbanan, who would say that a person that sells is cheap, then he cannot plant the tree because he doesn't get the karka because people are cheap. Yeah, Rebbe Kiva, Islay, and now we say that according to the machlokes, again we have the machlokes between Rav Zvid and Rav Papa on Amar Aleph. The Rav Zvid held that if one guy buys the trees and one guy buys the land, and the trees die, he does not have a right to replant the tree. And Rav Papa held he does because he gets the tree in part of the ground. So Rav Kiva Islay Afilu Rav Zvid, even according to Rav Zvid, the Amar Ein Loi. Even according to Rav Zvid, who says that the guy that owns the tree can't replant it, that's what two people buy it. Just like I don't have anything in the tree, you also don't have anything in the karka. Meaning each buyer can say that. But here the seller sells a ba'ayin yafa, and he's going to allow him to have enough land to replant the tree. The Rabbanan Leslie, and the Rabbanan holds he doesn't get any, he cannot replant the tree. But even according to Rav Papa, who says Damar Yeshloi, who holds that the guy who owns the tree does get some land. That's when there's two buyers. Damar Lekiyeh, the Lidach Sav and Ba'ayin Yafa, just like you sold Ba'ayin Yafa Lididi, not me Sav and Ba'ayin Yafa. I also sold it Ba'ayin Yafa. Aval Hacha Meicher Be'en Ba'ayin Ra Meicher. But here, he's going to say a seller is going to sell with ayin ra. He's not going to be generous. So therefore, the guy can't replant the trees. Okay, so that's sugi. It's a little bit complicated over the trees and the land. Let's go a little by. So it's a new thing. Well, not it's a new, but not exactly. Achlan ritzufin ein loy chazak. If somebody ate those, again, going back to the land with the 30 trees, if it was close together, all the trees were so close together, right? Which means it wasn't 10 trees for a base saw. It was, let's say, 20 trees a base saw. The Barashpam says 15. Right? Then Ein Lo Chazak, it doesn't have a Chazak. Why not? Because the trees can't grow that close together. I mean, it seems like the way they did it back then is they would start the trees off close together. Then when they started growing, they would uproot them and plant them further apart. So if he harvests 15 trees next to each other, it's not considered a legitimate harvest because or he plants them, so it's not going to grow.
They do that. They do that today also. They do that today too. Yeah, sure. Because the saplings start up small, and you can have a whole bunch of them growing in a small piece of property. Well, and as they get bigger, so then you uproot them and transplant them to other places. Sure, that's the nursery business. It's a big business.
Yeah, so that's right. So but if you plant them very close together, they're not going to grow. Right?
Yeah. In general, as they get older, they won't grow. They'll die out. Yeah.
Yeah. So muscular elamiata high mishra da safsa my conile. Right. What this mishra da safsa is a place that grows. Safsa is like this animal food, right? Vegetables that they grow very close together, and then they take them and they separate them. So then, how do you ever make a chazaka on that? Yeah. Elo Rava. So Rava changes the pshat. He says macharut sufim. If he sold them, right? The first pshat now, Ardoi said achlan ritzufin. If you ate them, wait to choose them all together. Here we're saying if you sold them, ain't like karka, then he does not have any karka. Why? Because since you're going to uproot it, they're not considered. Actually, I think I explained achlan with machram, right? But since you're going to uproot it, there's no chazak, right? Yeah, but not actually both of them are talking about where you're going to uproot it. So Mamela doesn't have it. It's just a matter of whether it's achlan or machram. Some Rav Zera Tanoi. Rav Zera says that this is actually machlokes Tanoim, which we had in Klayim. Kerem. So again, by Klayim, we said that if there's a vineyard, if it's mamash a vineyard, then you can plant other seeds 4 amas away. If it's not a vineyard, then you only have 6 tvachim space, and then you can plant other types. So a kerem normally has 4 amas. The 4 amas is in order to allow the plow to go around the vines. So let's say kerem shuna 2 apachas me'arbamas. Let's say it's planted less than 4 amas between each thing. So it means you're going to eventually have to clear out the vines in between in order to be able to take care of it. So Rav Shimon ain't a kerem. Rav Shimon says that's not a kerem because it's too constricted. It's too many things together. The Chachamim say that it is a kerem. Meaning, why is it a kerem? You look at the middle ones that are going to have to be uprooted in order for him to maintain his vineyard. They're going to have to be uprooted. So we look at them as if they're not there now. So it's your proper vineyard. So what do you see from this? That's a machlokes whether trees that are going to be uprooted, do we look at them right now like as if they're uprooted or not? Stop there. Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll stop over there. It's time for mincha anyways. No. Yeah. Okay. We'll stop there.